Good Thursday afternoon to you. Welcome to the Jon Sanchez Show on News Talk 780 KOH. It's a pleasure to be with you and a pleasure to be with my co-host. Let's go to the left. Mr. Dwight Millard of Highlands Mortgage. How are you, my friend?
Doing fantastic.
You catching the same cold that I've got, and
yeah,
we're not anywhere near each other, so you can't blame me on that.
I can't blame you on this
sorry.
one, but yeah.
Just be prepared. It will not go away.
It doesn't seem like it. I'm only in day 3 and it's just awful, but I think
I'm on, let's see, I caught it Thanksgiving weekend. So what has that been, a month now? And went on a Z-Pack and everything, and it just will not go away. Deep in the chest, in the nose, it's everywhere. So I'm sorry, man.
Thank you for those encourage words.
Yeah, I know.
I'm ready.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
Cory Edge of Israel, he bailed me out here. I just buried the poor guy, you know.
No, he'll be all right. Dwight's a tough cookie.
That he is.
Nothing some eggnog can't fix, right?
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly.
Spike.
More eggnog.
Yeah, good thing he's only 29 years old, and
that's right.
He can battle these illnesses like that.
Yeah.
Oh goodness! All right, guys. Well, so you guys will be together on Tuesday, but obviously not next Thursday. So before I forget, Merry Christmas to all of you and your families and all that. Be a good one, definitely. All right, let me tell you what we have lined up for you this afternoon. You know, most people think you have to physically buy a piece of real estate to be involved in real estate. But that's not the case. It's not how a lot of smart investors are doing it. I want you to think about something when we get ready to get through our topic today. Who usually makes the most amount of money in a real estate deal? Now, of course, you're gonna hit a few of them where you get in and it goes up in value. But if you really look at it, there's one party to a real estate transaction that tends to make the largest sum of money in most cases, and that is the bank. Right? You think about it. How much money, even if you bought a $400,000 or $500,000 house and you hold it for 30 years, think of how much money. How much would that interest be, Dwight? 30-year mortgage, say, well, I'm going too low. Let's say $600,000. 30 years at 6% interest. What would that turn out to be?
Yeah,
north of $1 million, right?
Well, you times it by thousands, right? I mean, these aggregate investors, Chase, Wells, Citi, all those. Yeah, you're right. They've got lots of it.
They are the ones that make it. So you don't physically have to own the real estate to make the money. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to give you 3 powerful ways that you can earn money in real estate without owning a single piece of property. We're going to talk about why these strategies are growing fast in today's market and what you need to know before you jump in. So, Cory, I hope you didn't get mad at me on this topic, but you were telling me off air that this is actually very timely, that you're going through some situations right now similar to this. And I know you probably can't go into any details, but just kind of give us an overview of why you think this is such a timely topic.
I think it's certainly timely because it's always been out there. I mean, let's call it what it is. Hard money. Usually as the lender, you're going to get paid more. You can get some points. It all sounds good. It's inherently risky. And what I've had with people, I mean, we've lent money out as business partners. We've borrowed money as business people. I deal with people all the time that go through this. So what I always tell people is let's look at the downsides of it. Let's look at what can go wrong. And if we can live with that, then the rest of it's great. And I've known some people, I know some people right now that make a fantastic living off of doing this, but they are, the school of hard knocks. They've been through some stuff. They've learned some stuff. There's ways to do it. There's ways not to do it. Mm-hmm. And again, as long as people understand the inherent risk, there's typically a reason why somebody comes to what I term as a hard money lender, is because they're locked out of the traditional one, and that brings more risk, which is why you get to make more interest. But people have to realize there is a risk there. That's why it's there.
Right. No doubt about it. Yeah. And again, this is why it's so very important to have a team and this will just be one of the areas of what we're talking about this afternoon. But why it's so important, Cory and Dwight, to have the team, right? You get somebody that has lending experience like Dwight, buying and selling experience like yourself. You get a good attorney, a good CPA. You get everybody involved, and like you said, Cory, make sure the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. Because if you don't do that, things can go south on you real fast. Because I think probably all 3 of us, I've never asked you guys this question, so I'm going to assume, tell me if I'm wrong. I think all 3 of us have known some people in our local area that, let's just say, have taken advantage of the public, not just privately, but of the public when it comes to lending and things like that. So there are some unscrupulous parties out there, not so much on the borrower side, but believe it or not, on the lending side, right, Cory?
There are some on the borrower side. So,
of course.
Again, I won't give you all the details, but there are some very sophisticated borrowers out there that understand the laws and the rules better than some of the lenders. And so they'll borrow the money understanding that it's going to be very hard for somebody to try to take this money back from me.
That's right.
So you just got to, your point is well taken. You got to have a good team that understands it. And you have to do everything you can to mitigate the risk up front, understanding that there's still risk. There's always risk. No matter what you do, you can't get rid of all of it.
That's right.
But that's why you get the good returns. If you're willing to take the risk, that's where the returns come in. If you don't want the risk, you buy the treasury bond and clip the coupon for 5%.
There you go. There you go.
Happy with it.
Exactly. So we're going to focus this topic down into 3 primary areas for everyone, just so you know what we'll be talking about here momentarily. We're going to focus it down into, we call it move number 1, which is the private real estate lending side that Cory is alluding to. We'll get into move number 2, which is real estate inside a retirement account. Yes. And number 3, equity participation without ownership. That's right. Again, somewhat on the lending side, but, well, you'll find out what Cory has to say about this one. It's fascinating. It's fascinating. So it's going to be a great topic. So our title is, again, how smart investors can profit from real estate without actually owning the property. All right, boys. Well, let's get the stock market side of it going today. Well, what a difference a day makes. What a difference a day makes, right? We had 4 consecutive days of the S&P 500 going down in value. We had AI concerns. We had Oracle concerns, which was related to the AI concerns. We had earnings misses. We had so much thrown our direction. And then lo and behold, hopefully you heeded my advice that I've been saying, it turns on a dime. When these rotations happen, turns on a dime. And today was that day that it turned on a dime. Here's what happened, folks. I don't want you to measure the Dow, performance today from a success or failure standpoint, because the Dow was acting really strange. I mean, we were up 300 points at our worst level. Then, literally within a matter of 5 minutes, we were negative. We went negative. Again, the algorithms are just going nuts at this particular point. So we only finished with a gain of 66 on the Dow to a close of 47,951, but focus more so on the NASDAQ, right? That's been the culprit of the Dow weakness, the S&P 500 weakness. NASDAQ today up 313 points, 1.38%, closing up finally above the 23,000 mark again, 23,006. S&P up 53 points, 0.75% to 6,774. So let's ask ourselves, so what are the catalysts? What changed from today to yesterday? So 2 things that I've narrowed it down to, and then I'll let you guys jump in. First one was Micron Technology, symbol MU. They reported very strong earnings numbers, gave an incredible guidance. So this helped out, of course, the semiconductor space. MU today up $24.08, 10.68% gain to $249.60. This includes, again, a little bit of after hours gain. The regular session, it was up about $23.03. Okay, so that was catalyst number 1. That then carried over to other companies in the storage area. SanDisk was up $12.63, 6.11%. Seagate Technology, $14.35 rise. Western Digital, $8.75 gain. Tesla was another top performer today, $16.11 gain, 3.45%. Amazon, which everybody was so worried about Amazon, 2 trading days ago, $5.49 gain. So that was another one. And then I'm going to keep on, the first catalyst, and that is Lululemon. Wall Street Journal reported that Elliott Investment Management's built about a $1 billion stake in the company. Stock rose $7.24. Big move for that, 3.48% to $215.11. Starbucks had a big gain. It's been just in the dumps. It went up $4.21. 4.94% to $89.42. All right. So that was really one of the first catalysts. Or I should say one of the catalysts. Actually, the first one happened earlier this morning, and that was at 5:30 this morning when we got the old heavily expected and anticipated CPI report. Now, guys, this was a goofy report. We had to mix in October and November into the CPI report. So it was 2 reports into one. Take it for what it's worth, how accurate or inaccurate, but the street viewed it as a positive number, and here's why. So what we look at is that we look at the month-over-month increase of inflation on the retail side of 0.2%, year-over-year up 2.7. Strip out food and energy, also up 0.2% month-over-month, year-over-year up 2.6%. So both of those numbers, again, kind of were better than expected. Not a great amount, but better than expected. We got to remember, again, this is a messy report, lacked the October data. But secondly, and more importantly, the disinflation on the year-over-year reading, very, very much of a welcome sight for market participants, the bond world that Dwight lives in, of course. If you're not having inflation, that again added another quiver to the arrow of potentially a January interest rate cut if inflation's not a problem. So everything just kind of fed upon that. That gave us the momentum. Everyone said, oh, let's forget about everything that's happened this week and all the concerns. And they bid the market up. I mean, it was really that simple. Dwight, let's jump into you. Let's take it over to the mortgage side. We finished down about 4 basis points on the 10-year at 4.12. Take us into the mortgage world. How do we do that?
Yeah, I think, John, as we keep over that 4% range, we're not getting a ton of movement. You got 5 basis points decrease, 6.22 today on the 30-year fix, which is still, it's an improvement over the 6.35, 6.37 we had prior to the Fed announcement. I like the FHAs and the VAs there in the 5s, 5.86 and 5.87. But John, I think I wanted to go back to that, the data that it wasn't the biggie that was taken away, and maybe I read it wrong or didn't, is the shelter price went way down, did it not?
It did. Yes, it did.
That was encouraging that the shelter was coming down.
Dwight's talking about one of the components of the CPI report.
Yeah.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. So they like that, I thought that.
Very much so.
Okay.
Yeah, very, very much so. Dwight, or Cory, real quick before we go to break. Great points, Dwight. Last night, of course, you and I were chatting back and forth during the president's speech, Cory. And, he made brief mention of, and I'm drawing a blank on what he said as far as the real estate, it was something positive. I forget his exact words, but I wasn't able to find anything today. I don't know about you, indicating what that hint was that he was going to do something very positive for the real estate market next year.
The only thing I took from it was he has, I don't know if he gave specific, for some reason in my brain, I'm thinking he's got 5 actions or big actions coming.
Yeah, he did not go specific last night.
To help. And yeah, I'm with you. I don't know unless they're going to more start talking about getting Fannie and Freddie out of conservatorship and doing the 50-year mortgage, kind of things that we've been hearing about. Maybe they're going to consolidate and actually do it.
Yeah. I don't know. So anyways, thought that was obviously something positive. At least, guys, like we keep talking about, the government needs to step in to do something positive for the real estate market since these rates are being stubborn. So that was my favorite part of his speech last night. So as we, like Cory and I said, we were discussing back and forth the word after word, word by word. All right, we come back. We're going to jump right into our real estate topic. So we got the stock market done. How smart investors profit from real estate without owning real estate. Let's turn it over to Kristen Snow right now, Traffic Center. Hello, Kristen. Welcome back to the Jon Sanchez Show on Newstalk 780 KOH with Cory of Edge Realty, Dwight Millard of Highlands Mortgage. Once again, we finished up 66 on the Dow, rose 313. I used to say that, 313. It's been a while. 53-point gain on the S&P 500. All right, we're going to get down to our real estate topic. How smart investors profit from real estate without owning a property. You really can. Now, I just want to tell you again, we kind of narrowed this down to about 3 points, but I want to mention this to everybody. There are actually a number of other ways from Wall Street's perspective that we get allocation exposure for our clients into commercial real estate with what's called a real estate investment trust. And again, the wonderful compliance. I can't go into great detail about it, but again, there's many other ways that you can do it. There's private REITs, there's public REITs, and so on and so forth. But just know that, this is not an all-inclusive list, but it's going to be a great start. So Cory, let's move into our, as we call it, move number 1, the private real estate lending.
Yeah, and this has been around forever, right? I think the majority of the time people think about it, and it's probably the safest way to do it, is you own a house, you want to sell it, you don't have any mortgages on it, so why don't I just retain my interest in it as far as being the bank and carrying the mortgage for the new buyer? And that, I would say that's probably the majority of the times that people outside of the banking world will get involved in a private lending, if you will. And in that scenario, it's great because usually you can get more for your house because you're going to be the bank. So not only do you get the interest and all those benefits, but typically you can charge a little bit higher price because it's going to be easier for the buyer to get in there. You know the property. So it's a little different than going into a property completely unknown as far as plumbing, electrical, all these things. You'll know the property and its pluses and its minuses and whatnot. And then we don't have to get into the tax benefits of it, but there are certain tax benefits in having an installment contract versus getting all your money in a lump sum.
Well, let's mention that. Don't lose your train of thought. Let's mention that. And again, generally not a bigger issue when you are selling your primary home, but let's say you're selling a rental property, to Cory's exact point, you sell on an installment sale. So instead of claiming or having to claim the capital gains in the year of the sale, if you do an installment sale, you can spread out that capital gain tax liability over the term of the note. So if you carry paper for 5 years, you only have to claim 1/5 of that capital gains and depreciation recapture tax each year. Do 10 years, claim 1/10. Primary rate, Cory, you're not going to see that too much because, again, most people are married and they're going to get that $500,000 tax-free exclusion. But there are some that have, their profits in their primary home are above that. So the same rule would apply there.
Well, yeah, and I think especially now we'll see if these golden handcuffs of low rates start coming off and people start selling, I'm going to bet you're going to have a lot of people that are above that $500,000 threshold. And so they'll be stuck with this. President Trump and some of the other people up there have talked about having a tax holiday, if you will, so you don't have to pay capital gains, period, on your primary rate. So maybe that's one of the things he's going to talk about in January. We'll see. That'd be interesting.
Cory, while we're on this topic, I want to go back in your memory bank to when we were talking about this in 2008, 2009. Yes, folks, we've all been together on this show that long. And we spent a lot of time then, I remember talking about the lease-to-own option, right? And it goes by a lot of different names. Can you go into that in a little bit more detail and tell us, is that prevalent right now in the real estate world? Because it's somewhat similar to carrying paper, but it's also very different. But it's another opportunity to be involved with real estate without actually owning the real estate.
Yeah, it's a lease option. So if you own a property and I want to buy it, but I, for whatever reason, can't qualify for the loan, or maybe I just don't want to because I don't want to have the outlay of capital, I'm going to come to you and say, John, I want to do a lease option on your property. And if you
let's say I'm selling it for $500,000, just use some numbers.
So let's say you say, well, tell me how it works. I'm going to give you some sort of option consideration. It's negotiable. It can be $1,000. It can be $100,000. And you can think of it as a down payment, if you will, but it's called option consideration. So let's say you tell me, yes, $500,000, I want $50,000 for the option consideration. And then we're going to do this lease option. You're basically going to move in. I'm going to move in. I'm going to pay you, just for round numbers, $5,000 a month. And you tell me that again, these are negotiable. You tell me that none of it's going to go towards my purchase price. I'm going to say, no, I want at least half of it to go towards the purchase price. We're going to negotiate back and forth. And then we're going to have an end to this. So you're going to say, fine, we're good with the details. $50,000 down in our example for option consideration, $5,000 a month, with half going to the purchase price. And you have to exercise the option, meaning you have to give me the whole $500,000 within 2 years, 5 years, whatever you can negotiate.
Mm-hmm. Usually fairly short.
That's when the option ends. That's when I need to exercise it on or before that date. And so what it does is if you're smart and if the market's working in your favor, it allows me to control your $500,000 property for $50,000 plus monthly installments, and I can hold on to the option. And let's just say 5 years from now, it's worth $800,000. Well, I get all the upside as long as I exercise the option. I will tell you that I think the stat is 95% of the time options aren't ever exercised. So the good thing for the seller is they get to keep all the consideration, they get to keep all the monthly payments, they get to keep the property, and they get to do it all over again.
John, I want to add to Cory saying, when you set up a monthly installment on that, I can only give you credit to some of your down payment, additional down payment, anything that's over and above standard rent. So we have to establish standard rent. So for example, if rents are $1,500 in the area and you charge $1,400, I can't give you any of that money towards the transaction at the end because you're only charging market rents. If you charge $2,000 and the rents are $1,500, and again, there's a little wiggle room there, but I mean, the gist is then if you allocate $500 a month towards your closing of the house, you can use that difference over and above the traditional rates. So you have to be very careful because people go, I've done a few of these, and they come and they go, okay, well, I've been paying $1,500 for 3 years. That goes against, no, it's anything over and above the rental market. Excellent. Just got to remember that. So you can't just allocate everything to help close. It's only what's above it. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
And I think that's a great point that Dwight brings up, because you're going to have two things. You're going to have the agreement that John and I have. And then when I got to go get a loan, I have to abide by Dwight's restrictions. Yep. So John might say, no, put it all towards a price. And Dwight says, no, you can't do that. So there's going to be, I don't want to call them pitfalls, but there's going to be all these little nuances there that people don't expect, and that's just part of the transaction.
Real quickly, Cory, before we go to break, and I know you're not a CPA, so tell me if you don't feel comfortable answering this. Who gets the tax consideration of the house? Would it be you or me?
What do you mean?
Well, as far as, would you be able to write off, let's say it's a rental, would you be able to write off, your normal depreciation and various expenses? of that rental if you, Cory, are owning it under a lease option and I'm still holding title?
It's an interesting.
Yeah.
So I don't know how the IRS looks at it, but they're in Nevada specifically. There's legal title and there's equitable title. So I have equitable title to the property, even though you hold legal title to the property. So I don't, to be honest with you, I'm not sure who's going to get the tax benefits.
Yeah, I've never dealt with it from a tax perspective. So yeah, great. Something again to talk to your team about. When we come back, I want to tell you about a book that's similar to what Cory's talking about, but it's in the world of mobile homes. It was a book that I read years ago, and it's one of these books that just last forever that you can always go back and read and kind of understand this philosophy a little bit better. Let's turn it over to Jack Saban. He's got news traffic and weather. Hello, Jack. Welcome back to the Jon Sanchez Show on News Talk 780 KOH with Dwight Millard of Highlands Mortgage, Cory Edge of Edge Realty. Once again, a 66-point gain on the Dow. NASDAQ rose 313, S&P up 53. All right, we're moving into the topic. We just started it. How smart investors profit from real estate without owning the property. Now, I told you I'm going to get to mine, and then I'm going to go over to Cory. He was sharing some very interesting information during the break. I came across this book, guys. I've mentioned it. It's been years. Again, talking about the lease-to-own strategy that Cory was highlighting before we went to break. But there's a great book out there, and I don't get anything off of this. I had to, matter of fact, go into my memory bank to remember the name of it. But it was written back in 2013 by a gentleman by the name of Lonnie Scruggs. Now, when you look at the book, it almost looks like a comic book on the front. I'm looking at a picture of it. And you can buy it online. Matter of fact, quite a few places. And what this book is about, guys, is it's a guide for real estate investors on making money with mobile homes, teaching you how to find, purchase, and sell them for a profit, even with little capital, by creating your own notes and generating cash flow. So this guy, I think he started like back in Mississippi or somewhere, going out. And I looked into this strategy years ago when I came across this book. Goes out, buys a mobile home for $5,000, right? Puts an ad in the paper, kind of like what we see for, property out in the Nevada desert. Hey, $100 down and, whatever. But he, buys these properties for, $5,000, puts an ad out. People will come in, give him $1,000 or $2,000 down payment. And then he carries that, let's call it a $3,000 balance, right? I'm making it really simple. Charges them interest. Like what you said a moment ago, Cory, majority of people default on it. And so this guy became a multi-millionaire doing this over and over and over again. But his focus is with mobile homes in areas that are, probably places you and I would not ever think about living, but very, very effective strategy. And yeah, does he own the mobile home? Yeah. But is he responsible for any repairs on it? Nope. Is he responsible for the space rent on it? Nope. That's up to the tenant. And again, most of those tenants end up defaulting because they just, can't ever buy it out. So anyways, just my little 2 cents on that side of it. Dwight, you want to add anything to this before we get to Cory's story?
No, just what I added. I mean, there's opportunities, but yeah, you just got to be careful.
Yes, indeed. So Cory, go into this story you're mentioning about a strategy that is out there. Probably take some capital to do it, where you go out and you obtain a master lease on a number of properties. So walk us through an example, and then you're going to turn around and take this master lease. You don't own the properties. You're just leasing. Let's just call it 100 of these properties, single families, whatever you want. And then you're turning around and putting them on one of the short-term rental programs. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, and I'm sure that there's a lot of people out there doing that. But I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, as I mentioned, and he's got family down in the Monterey area who, for whatever reason, didn't sell the house. So they signed into one of these. I don't think it was a program the way he made it sound. It was an individual, but this individual had multiple of these deals. So I'm sure there are other players in the market. But in his scenario, his family leased out this beautiful property in Monterey worth a few $1,000,000 to someone who has a master lease on it. It's triple net. So they don't have to do anything. Toilet goes out, this or that. The tenant's responsible for everything. They just collect money. He turns around, he or she, I don't know what it is, turns around and then puts that property onto VRBO, Airbnb, whatever they want, and collects, as you mentioned when we were off air, is trying to collect the net difference. So I'll just use round numbers. If he is getting, in this case, $10,000 a month on the lease, or paying $10,000 a month on the lease, he's hoping to get maybe $20,000 a month in nightly rentals through Airbnb or whoever he's using, and he gets to keep the difference and send it on. And the way my buddy was explaining this to me is this person has multiple of these all over the Monterey area. So they're kind of like you and I were joking off air. If you and I wanted to get in the hotel business, but we didn't want to invest in a hotel, we could go out and get leases on these properties, master leases. You have to let people know that you're going to sublease them and what you're doing so you don't break any of the covenants. And we could control 50 rooms, 100 rooms, 500 rooms, as big as you want to make it, and basically be a mini hotel. And what this person was doing, I'm theorizing, is they probably have the cleaning crews in place. They probably have the handyman in place. They probably have so much turnover that it's similar to how a hotel is run. It's just not in the same building. It's throughout the city versus one spot. And I'm sure he's making some good money.
Well, obviously, he is. And as you and I were talking, and you and I, Dwight, during the break, this was a topic that Jason and I discussed yesterday at great length. And if you missed it, please listen to the podcast. We were talking about, again, the data center problem where Blue Owl backed out of providing the financing for, major data center that Oracle was going to be the tenant of, because Larry Ellison wouldn't come in and sign on the dotted line guaranteeing it personally. Folks, let me let you in on a little secret. This is how Wall Street makes their money. Wall Street doesn't like to own anything. Wall Street wants to be the middleman, and they want to leverage your money. So let's use the data centers real quickly, guys, as the example. Cory, I'm going to give you credit. You were bringing this up during the break. Again, we discussed it yesterday, but let's use Meta as an example, right? And I'm speculating. I don't know if this specifically applies to Meta, but I think it does, because there's, just a handful of these major companies. Meta goes in and says, okay, I want this data center in Timbuktu. Wall Street will lend the money to a company like a Blue Owl or one of these other companies. They will then hire the contractors. They will then build it. And of course, Blue Owl is using not their own money. They're using America's money, right? Investors' money. Okay. So now no one has really spent any of their own money other than the investors' money. They go and build this project, but before they build it, guess what? They're going to lease it to Meta. Now, why in the world would Meta lease this data center for, $5 billion instead of buying it? Well, what many of you may not understand is there is no, and I mean no, advantage for a corporation to own anything. That's why they lease it. When you own a piece of when you lease a piece of property as a corporation, that lease payment is a 100% tax deductible item on your income statement. If Meta owned that property, they went out and got a mortgage on it, all they can write off is the interest. That's it. So it's a bad use of their capital. There's no tax advantages. But most importantly, remember, just like Wall Street wants to be able to get out of the way and lick their wounds if things go sideways. Guess what? Same with Meta or Oracle or any of these others. If things go bad, AI heads south on us, whatever conditions may happen, guess what? They break the lease and they move on. But as Cory and I know we're talking about also, what some of you may not realize is, I won't mention what company it is, but there are some major commercial real estate developers in this country that when they buy a property, let's just use one property as an example, they'll put it in generally into an LLC. It has no bearing on the balance sheet of the corporation, the major corporation, so on and so forth. If that property, which we experienced with one of these major lenders this year, if this property goes sideways, they can't refinance it, whatever happens, what do, Cory?
They bankrupt it.
They bankrupt it. Does it affect the big parent company? Nope, zero. It's a separate LLC. So it's a big game, but they're using your money to do it. So why don't you use your money or use someone else's money like Wall Street does to leverage into real estate? Right, Dwight? I mean, really,
absolutely.
You're in the world of leverage, brother, every day, right?
Yep.
Every day.
Well, and the big companies, the big aggregators like that, the Metas and whatnot, they're not in the real estate business. They don't want to own the stuff. Yeah. And if you remember, going back to the Great Recession, even here locally, all across the country, these big subdivisions were going bankrupt and getting foreclosed on. And who was the highest bidder to buy it? The same company under a different LLC would buy it back. Correct.
Themselves. You got it. Dropping up a Chris and Snow right now, Traffic Center. Welcome back to the Jon Sanchez Show on Newstalk 780 KOH. We've been talking about how smart investors profit from real estate without owning properties. Again, folks, we have just absolutely, I wouldn't even say even scratched the surface. There are so many other strategies that are available that all three of us can help you with. Start off with us. Give us a call at Sanchez Gaunt, and we bring in Cory and Dwight and so on and so forth if this is of interest to you. 775-800-1801 or sanchezgaunt.com. Mr. Millard, speaking of contact, your phone number.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Edge. Beautiful. All right. We're going to go real quickly on move number 2 in our subject here. And what this one is, guys, I'll handle this one because this is something that we're going to be talking a lot about in 2026. And this is owning real estate inside of retirement accounts. And I'll just tease all of you a little bit. We are working diligently behind the scenes that we will be putting together a program in 2026 with Sanchez Capital Management, Cory Edge of Edge Realty, Dwight Millard, of putting together a program for those of you that want to own real estate in your IRA account. This is something the three of us did back in, when was it, guys? 2013, right around that time period, I think, right when we were coming out of real estate, or maybe it was a little earlier than that. It met with great success. And so we are putting this program together. We are now licensed to be able to offer this to our clients. Again, this is called a self-directed IRA. Very, very powerful strategy. Like anything, it has its pros and it has its cons. You want people that are a team. Let me rephrase that. You want a team like we have that knows what they're doing to put these programs together. But if it's done right, Mr. Edge, you did phenomenal success. We can't go into details, but phenomenal success with our clients doing this. And very excited that you're going to be involved in this in 2026 for us again.
It's something that a lot of people don't realize, and kudos to you because you brought it to my attention eons ago, and we had some mutual clients that went through it, and some of them have since liquidated those positions and moved on, but incredible. Like it's a very powerful tool because there's no tax issues with it.
There you go.
Most people don't realize how easy it is.
Yep. And Dwight, you're going to be handling a lot of the lending inside of the IRA side of things when we launch this.
Yeah, I'm excited. And to Cory's point, Jon, I mean, you're one of the few investment advisors out there legitimately allowing this product in their portfolio, in their family of opportunities. Absolutely. It is a powerful, it's a powerful position. So I'm happy to be a part of it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's going to be very exciting. We'll give you more details again in 2026. But folks, you're going to be able to hear us talk about even doing this in various retirement accounts like Ks, solo 401ks, SEP IRAs, regular IRAs, meaning traditional Roth IRAs, backdoor Roths. I mean, just wait and see. We're so excited to tell you about it. Our third point that we're going to talk about is equity participation without ownership. Again, you come in as a partner, majority or minority, and you partner with somebody and get into a real estate project. So that's another way. Fascinating topic, guys. Excellent job as always. Really appreciate both of your insights. We'll see you two on Tuesday. We'll see everybody else tomorrow on the Jon Sanchez Show. God bless. Have a great afternoon.
Dwight Millard, NMLS ID number 241259, a licensed mortgage loan officer with Highlands Residential Mortgage Limited and Equal Housing Lender. NMLS ID number 134871. The information shared on this live broadcast is for general information purposes only and does not constitute financial or mortgage advice. Listeners should consult directly with a licensed mortgage professional for guidance tailored to their specific situation. All loans are subject to credit approval and program guidelines. Not all applicants will qualify. Loan terms and availability may vary by state and are subject to change without notice. Highlands Residential Mortgage Limited is licensed in multiple states. For a full list of state licenses and disclosures, please visit https://www.highlandsmortgage.com/licenses/. The views expressed during this program are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of Highlands Residential Mortgage Limited.